Well, good afternoon, Benjamin Hadfield, Teach Me to Dive, technical dive instructor in Idaho. Yes, diving in Idaho, technical diving. I know you think, yeah, I think it's the last place you think of diving. Maybe South Dakota, North Dakota, maybe lesser thought of diving, but
it's all in there.
It all is. But
Yeah.
at least South Dakota has the ice festival, right? That's kind of gotten pretty popular as well. So definitely little different. So we're sitting today with Sarah. Sarah has been living on the road for several years now as a wandering diver, social media diva. And, well, I don't know that I care for the term diva, to be honest with you. It just doesn't.
I don't think it suits me.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all.
But I get it.
Maven.
I get it. There we go.
I haven't heard anybody called a maven in a long time.
All right.
So
fair.
Social media maven, YouTube star, Instagram, Facebook, driving around, used to live in, but we're going to go through that. So we're here in Yellowstone National Park today. And we just got done with some dives out in the lake. Everybody knows it's one of my favorite places in the world to dive. But here we go through and learn about Sarah and get an idea of what she's about, where she's from. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, perfect. Well, Sarah, tell us, how'd you get started in diving?
Well, first I want to say thank you for the dives today because it was incredible. I did not think I was going to get to dive in Yellowstone. So you just made
give the
my
high
week.
five on that.
Hell yeah.
I love high fives.
It was so cool. I loved it. What did you say?
How did you get started?
How did I get started? I randomly was in Thailand, like every backpacker. I went just to check out the area and I heard about scuba diving on Koh Tao. Again, everybody goes to Koh Tao to get certified. And I did the open water course. I thought I was going to stay there for 4 days and I stayed there for about 4 months. And I went through my whole Zero to Hero Dive Master program.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I don't recommend doing that for most people. It definitely made my progression in my career a little bit more challenging. But, you know, it was a good time.
Absolutely. So started out, got to Dive Master, and left after 4 months. So how did you moved up to instructor? How did that happen?
So I went to California, that's where I'm from, and I did some fun diving and realized that I knew absolutely nothing about diving because Koh Tao is quite simple,
Sure.
right? So I spent some time diving in California for a while, and then I decided to do my instructor development course in Playa del Carmen in Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, I was at a point in my career where I could continue for many, many years, or I could go for, this dream of teaching. I'm a yoga teacher too, so
Okay.
I wanted to go teach yoga and instruct scuba, so I went for it.
I think that's amazing, honestly. And it's something that I try and at least impart to my students, say, hey, go take a yoga course. Yoga is amazing complement to diving. And I don't think people get that idea. But as you heard me say today, right, I teach my classes, I want to teach you to do nothing and enjoy it. And I think it's about that mindfulness and that centering your mind that is so appealing for me in diving. And it's one of the things I love in yoga as well, is that time with you to center your brain and think about that and really get that kind of mindfulness down.
Yeah, just be super present and notice all of the details of everything that you're seeing. It's mindfulness 101, really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a key. Is I think there's too many divers that want to be Michael Phelps and they want to see the whole daggum ocean in one freaking dive. And you're like, dude, slow down, take your time. It's a big ocean. It's going to be there tomorrow. In fact, the young lady today who had to pop up, she's like, I'm so bummed. I'm like, the spires have been there for 11,000 years.
Yeah.
I'm betting they're going to be there tomorrow too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's, people always go into things with expectations, and I don't know, it's just better to go in and enjoy whatever ends up happening. And if you don't see anything, you at least got wet.
Exactly. Right? That's you're making bubbles. I always say that going at the worst dive I'm ever going to do is better than the best thing I'm going to do for work 7 days a week, twice on Sunday.
Hands down.
Absolutely. It's better than carrying tanks.
Facts.
Fact, especially. And you told me earlier, you're like, I want to try and get into twin sets. And I'm like, no.
I want to do it more for the experience,
Sure.
just to know how it works and how, what the buoyancy's like, and just, more knowledge. I think more knowledge is always good.
I get it completely.
I'll stick with side mount though.
I don't blame you. I'm a hardcore side mount. I do twin sets begrudgingly. Just to say, because I do have students that come through and want to learn twin sets and they want to do tech, but they don't want to go side mount. So we teach twin sets because we have those students that they'll never go side mount, but they want to go tech, and that's you've got 3 choices of tech, and most people aren't going to spend the 14 grand to go CCR.
Right.
Right out, at least out of the gate.
Yeah.
So you've been diving for a long time now, and really got this idea, been around the world on this, worked at a dive shop, owned a dive shop. Tell me about owning a dive shop.
Yeah, after working for interesting people in the industry, I decided with a couple of partners that we wanted to, those dogs are having a great time.
They are having a good time.
But I've got together with 2 partners and we decided to, go for it. It's kind of the dream that a lot of us as instructors have, to run the show and like do it the way that we would do it, right? And so decided to open in Indonesia. We're on Flores Island. Labuan Bajo is the town, and daily operations was Komodo National Park. So kind of dream destination. We owned a 60-foot boat, one of those beautiful wooden boats out there. It's still there with the new owners. But yeah, we opened in 2019, and then 2020 happened. We really tried, but Indonesia was closed for 2 years, and none of us have trust funds. So, keeping staff and a boat afloat costs a lot of money. I sent a lot of money over there. While I was working in the States, I came home to support the business. And it finally came to a point where we had to sell.
I get it. And that's the challenge with it, is you see very few mega rich people come into diving and decide to buy a dive shop. If you're mega rich at that point, you don't want to own a dive shop. You just go diving.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of those things though, like we were actually really successful in the short amount of time that we were there. So it's not to say that like you can't make it work. You just have to be smart about your money, right? Like I see dive shops do this over and over again where they just spend too much. They spend too much money and they don't know where their money goes, and then all of a sudden, oh shoot, we're broke, It's about tracking those things and making mindful purchases.
Do you think that those dive shops, it's because they come at it from an angle that they are not business people to start with, that they come out of a trade somewhere, and then they decide, hey, I love diving, so I should own a dive shop?
I think there's a lot of that, just like lack of knowledge of the industry, because you make a lot of mistakes when you know the industry a little bit better, but if you don't know it, like, oh my gosh, and those mistakes cost you money. But what I've noticed is that there's a lot of ego, and people want the biggest and best of everything without really taking into consideration how it affects the whole business. That's what I see over and over again.
I think that's, you brought up an interesting point of the 0 to hero in 4 months. And there's a video on our channel we talk about that, because I get asked, I want to be a dive master, And my advice is always take your time, enjoy the journey.
Absolutely.
It's more about the journey than the destination. But I think that's a good point to bring up as well, is we all want to be there now, and we stop looking at the idea of becoming. When we're in school, you and I both have degrees, and so we were becoming something, and it took years to become something. I had a diver compliment me today on my trim today, and he's like, I wish I could get there. I'm like, you can, but you become there. I didn't start out. In fact, in my open water class, I love this. I've got pictures of me on my when I got open water certified, and I am a total goober. Yes. Absolutely.
I love it.
Total goob. I've got the mask on top of my head.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah.
That's the best though. Like, how joyful were you in that moment?
Oh, I was absolutely just like pure joy.
For that.
But so we look at that and we go through that process, and we don't realize this is a becoming thing. And so I think dive shop owners, they're like, I've got to have the Trimix compressor 5,000, and you're like, no, let's start maybe just pumping air.
That's really it. Honestly, it happens time and time again.
So, so you've gone through this process. I think you'd agree with the process of becoming, but you've also got something else going through, and I'm very proud of my wife. She's gone through tech, and she's an amazing diver all to herself. But my favorite days is when we got on a tech boat. There's 12, 14, 16, 18 tech divers on there. We're all in side mount or twin sets with deco bottles, and she's the mermaid. I love that, and I love seeing, and she just beams with her pride and everything else, and I beam because that's my wife, right? Yeah. So there's there's this thing. There's not as many women in the industry. So as a woman diver and instructor, what challenges have you faced specifically from that side of the coin?
Um, Gosh, there's kind of a lot of sides to this because I am very, very fortunate that the way that I've built my platform, I hate saying that because it just feels really lame, but like I've done it in a way that like I've attracted really good people, like people that respect me. They understand that I'm silly and I share my mistakes because I want people to not feel intimidated, you know, that they can come up to me and ask me questions, because I get that all the time in the industry where people, they won't ask the question because they don't want to look stupid, right? So there's like this wall between professionals and new divers a lot of times. And it breaks my heart because it's like, we've all been there. I've done so many stupid things. I continue to do stupid things because there's always more to learn, right? So like on one side, I have a really supportive group of people, men and women, non-binary, like all people. And but then there's the other side that treats me like I'm just nothing to really take seriously. I think that's just kind of interesting. You know, as a dive shop owner, sometimes people would come in and they wouldn't want to talk to me. They wanted to talk to the male owners. And it's just a constant thing. I mean, the industry is very male dominated. And I don't know, I'm hoping that with the next generation of divers that starts to change. There's more diversity, more women, just like kind of more open, because it seems like there's a lot of gatekeeping and sort of like you need to have the best gear and you need to have the money to be able to do things. Like that's what I love about sharing my lifestyle, because I've done this on like the shoestring of budgets, you know, just to show that like you don't have to be rich to be a scuba diver, because everybody thinks that, you know. So that's like the duality. Like some people are really supportive and great, and other people are total trash on the internet and say awful things. And of course, there's the ones that objectify me all the time. And, you know, I'm just a cute face that can sell product or something. And it's like, I think I'm a good instructor, you know, I think I'm skilled at that. And people that understand it, they'll follow, and that's great, you know. And I just shove the other people on the side and I block.
I always love watching somebody like you come along where people aren't quite sure it's a woman and she's technical, and they're like, and they sit back and watch. And I watched several divers today that were kind of new, and they're like, how's Sarah going to do? And then one of them came, in fact, I talked to Glenn today, and he says, it was amazing. He was 4 inches above the ground, perfect position, didn't stir anything up. And at one point she touched something and it didn't stir anything up as well. And he said it was surprise. And nobody wants, I've got, you know, I dive very similar. We've got good trim. We're comfortable. We can float and you know, do the hover forever. But that's just part of being a technical diver. And not once did he look at that and say, "Oh, Benjamin, I watched your form. You did the same thing." It was, "You see Sarah?" She was like, and it was like, what did you expect? I mean, she's an instructor. She's, you know, well-versed, well-traveled, a very strong diver. But it's interesting to watch people step back and like, oh my gosh, it's like watching. It's like they almost expect a monkey typing on the computer. You know, there's like, no, this is a real breathing person who has feelings and emotions and is extremely strong diver. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I see that, and same thing with my wife. I see people on the boat like, is she gonna dive twin sets?
Yeah, is she gonna be able to do that? Those are heavy.
Exactly.
It's like, bugger off. I'm stronger than you. Like, you really want to get into this? Like, let me whip out these biceps.
So I love that. I've taken, my wife is probably twice what I'll ever be. She's amazing, master's degree, master architect, all that fun stuff. And she's far better than I deserve. But it's fun it's fun to watch people underestimate her. And I'm like, oh, you can underestimate her all you want, but she's going to whoop your butt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it comes back from that, you know, that old that grow up of, you know, we Leave It to Beaver kind of deal. You know, June should stay at home and and Dad should go out and I don't remember what Dad's name was, to be honest with you, but Ward would go out and do but it's really not like that. I mean, women and men, there's really not a difference in terms. In fact, honestly, I just finished my AIT course with an amazing instructor trainer, technical instructor trainer as well, out of Honduras, Utila. And I loved it because there was aspects that she brought to the instruction that I didn't anticipate, and I was really looking forward to not learning what I didn't know that I didn't know, and the detail orientation that I haven't seen in a male instructor trainer before. And I was like, wow. And I told my Nikki, I says, I'd like to quit my job and just go ahead and spend a few months working for her. That would be like a dream come true because she's far better than I am in terms of instructor. She's more detail oriented, and she brings a facet to the instruction that I had never considered. I knew it was there, I just didn't know what it would be.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. And so, you know, my hat's off to women instructors who hold their own and dive like you do, and just continue to break that vision of what we think.
Yeah.
Right. I love that. Absolutely love that. I was blessed though. I grew up in a matriarchal home. So my mom was the king of the home, and my grandmother was in our home as well. And my dad was not. And so I grew up in that home. So I think it's different for me sometimes in that I've seen my mom go out and sling and make the money. She didn't require a man to, you know, pay for our home or our food.
Yeah.
My grandmother, same thing. So I think I'm lucky that way, and I don't see a lot of the glass ceiling like you would, or the idiots that come out.
Yeah, I mean, they're all out there, and you kind of wish that at this point, you know, 2023, that like things would be a little bit different. I think with social media, it's helping. You know, there's a lot of people really pushing boundaries, you know, which is cool to see. Like,
It is cool.
Yeah, and things are blowing up on platforms like TikTok, which is made for the young people, and us millennials hang out there too. But yeah, it's time for change. Like, I always say that the dive industry is usually 10 or 15 years behind like mainstream anything.
Yeah.
And it's about time.
So coaching and working with women that are coming up in the industry, what advice would you give them as they come up?
Oh my gosh. I think having a really strong sense of who you are, and working on your own confidence, because the men in the industry will try to break you. So like doing a lot of personal development in that sense of just like really understanding who you are and what you bring to the table, and understanding that you don't know everything and that it's okay. And if anybody shames you, then they're a piece of crap, right?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of that. And so I think that's not really, it doesn't have anything to do with dive training. It's personal development.
Sure.
But I think women have to be a lot stronger in that sense, because there's so many big personalities and dominating characters, you know, all around your coworkers, and they're the loudest ones, you know. And I've never been, I don't know, I'm not interested in fighting for that volume, you know.
Sure.
I'm just going to go and do this, and I'm going to attract the people that like what I'm doing over here, because this is a loving, kind place over here.
Sure.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, perfect. Well, let's end this portion of the segment, and we'll pick up on part 2 in just a moment.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.